fight in this battle, we lose the Iowa that we know. That is a guarantee. And that's why I'm running for governor. I resigned a job that I loved. I loved the job that I had for Governor Reynolds. 5 years running the state of Iowa, dealing with some of the biggest problems, the biggest challenges that the state faces. I loved that job. But I resigned that job so that I could protect a state that I love. I'm not doing this for a good time. And I've said this on Conway and probably Dace's show. I'm not doing this for funsies. I'm not doing this for a title. I'm not doing this for a resume. I'm in this race to protect your freedom. I'm here to protect your property. I'm here to protect your kids. And I'm here to protect your future. That is why I'm in this race. Iowa should be a place where families thrive. Not where they're taxed, regulated, and pushed out. A place where life is valued. Where work is rewarded and government knows its place. And that is not in the way. Get government out of the way. We, the people, should reign. This campaign isn't about personalities. It's not about insiders. It's about whether or not Iowa remains free. And here's the reality. We win by bringing everyone to the table. Young, old, business/establishment, agriculture, faith, grassroots, MAGA, MAHA, all united behind leadership that's ready to fight and ready to win. And I'm prepared. I'm not looking back. And like Dave said, I'm ready to lead on day one. 5 years serving under Governor Reynolds meant real responsibility. That was real work, real responsibility, working with every single state department, overseeing the interactions of 20,000 state employees that deliver services for you, for your tax dollars, managing massive budgets, and we delivered tangible results. My team, my department, we delivered. We cut waste. We exposed fraud. We created efficiency, reducing 37 agencies down to 16. We implemented zero-based budgeting, which you'll hear me say on the campaign trail all the time. It ensures accountability and transparency of your tax dollars so there's no hiding of where your money is going. We returned Iowa farmland back to Iowans. I created the Iowans Buy Iowa program to sell thousands of acres of farmland to local Iowa farmers. It stayed out of the hands of the Chinese, and it stayed out of the hands of out-of-state billionaires. That's what we do. In the process of returning that land to Iowans, I uncovered that the state had a state-run cattle operation. Welcome to state government, by the way. We had a state-run cattle operation that was unnecessarily wasting tax dollars to manage a cattle herd. $250,000 a year we were losing just to run cows. We don't have that taxpayer-owned cattle operation anymore, and now we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars because I got rid of it. In Tama County, the old Iowa juvenile home, it sat vacant for 10 years. For 10 years it sat vacant. We spent $250,000 a year of your tax dollars just to keep the property from being vandalized. $2.5 million over the course of 10 years, poof, gone. In 9 months, I had that property transferred to the city. The city renovated the school. It is now a functional junior high. Kids are going back to school there. We are saving money. They're selling lots on the bare ground. And Toledo, Iowa is a different city because of it. That's conservative leadership. Those are results. That is not talk. And I got plenty more of those receipts out there as well. Before public service, I spent 18 years in the private sector. I built businesses. I grew businesses. I signed paychecks. I took risks. I launched a product called the Turkey Fan. Went from an idea of a buddy of mine in his garage to the shelves of major outdoor retail stores all across the country. From zero to national distribution. You're looking at somebody who can only do that. The only way you can do that is if you have grit, if you've got discipline, and if you refuse to quit. It's the only way you can do those things. Yes, I was also a professional baseball player. Athletics teaches you something important. You don't win by whining, do you, boys? You don't win by whining, do you? Nope. You win by showing up. You win by doing the work. You win by fighting until the job is done. That's how I lead, and that's how I will govern. So what's keeping Iowa free mean? That's not just a slogan. Keeping Iowa free means property rights. It means no government bureaucrat telling you how to use your land, your farm, or your business. Keeping Iowa free means property tax relief, real property tax relief, so that families aren't taxed out of their homes, farmers aren't taxed out of their land. Accountability and transparency from the top of government to the bottom of government. Keeping Iowa free means a workforce strategy that values skilled trades. Right. A workforce strategy that values manufacturing, that values healthcare as an occupation. It values agriculture as an occupation. Keeping Iowa free means real jobs within those industries so that our kids can actually achieve the American dream. We don't need to send them to a 4-year university so they can come out half communist with hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. We need vocational studies, industrial arts in 7th, 8th, 9th grade so the kids can work with their hands, so the kids can break things, so the kids can fix things, so the kids can get dirty, and kids can go do it all again. We have an opportunity to work alongside the Trump administration to do just that with his $1 million apprenticeship program. We have an opportunity as the state of Iowa to work alongside him in what they are doing to usher in a golden age of opportunity. We have to be pushing that. We have to be forcing that. And I tell you who will not do that? Rob Sand. He will not do that. He will think government is the solution. We need to rely on the government to do our things. And there's one thing I know. One thing I know from the 5 years I spent inside of state government. And it's that government screws everything up. Keeping Iowa free means local control. Parents and communities making decisions, not out-of-touch bureaucrats who don't even know your hometown, let them know what your values are. Keeping Iowa free is a movement. It doesn't create itself, you have to fight for it. And that's exactly what this campaign is. It's a fight, and we're going to fight for it. It's a fight we can win if we unite and if we act. Right. When we bring people together, we will win with a relentless ground game across every single county. It's forming right now. We have an incredible team. We've got incredible momentum. If you saw the debate on Tuesday night, you saw a candidate that has been prepared by a team who's ready to win. Come on. We're going to win by turning out the base and winning decisively so that Iowa never has to worry about the left rising up again. We're going to do this in decisive fashion, and we're not going to turn back. Iowa was built by people with grit. People who get up early, people who go to bed late, people who get dirty, who clean up. They get up, they go do it all again. That's who Iowans are. That's who you are, and that's who's going to help us win this fight. In a Steen administration, Iowa will be a shining light on a hill. Iowa will be a beacon of hope for families to thrive. In a Steen administration, Iowa will continue to be a safe haven for children and families. And Iowa will continue to be a place we can be proud to call home. Yeah. But to achieve this, we need your agreement. We need you. We need your voice. We need your time. We need your energy. And yeah, we need your financial support as well. Campaigns are won by people who show up and invest their time, their talents, and their resources. Campaigns are won by people willing to say, I'm all in. My family and I, we said we are all in. That's why I resigned the job that I loved. That's why I took the income, the retirement, everything, wiped it away from my family so that we could go all in. And we didn't do it for us, we did it for you. We went all in because we believe that Iowa is worth fighting for. If you believe Iowa's worth fighting for, join us. Go to adamsteen.com. Donate to fuel the campaign. You can do it online at adamsteen.com or find a Team Steen representative to write a check. Sign up to volunteer. We need volunteers in every single one of these counties. We've got a bunch. They're growing. We need a lot more. Talk to your neighbors. Wake them up. Shake them. Let them know what's happening right now. We have to be talking to our neighbors. We have to be talking to our friends. We have to be talking to our families. Use your voice. Be part of a movement that's bigger than yourselves. That's how we win. That's how we unite. And together we will win. And Iowa will remain free. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you.
So we thought we'd do a little Q&A with you guys, if you wanted. Just a couple of ground rules, all right? Each question requires a $50,000 donation. That is negotiable. Not very negotiable, but it's negotiable, all right? And snotty questions go first, all right? So if you have a snotty question, you get to go first. Yes, sir?
So far, everything I've seen in reference to property tax proposals has been lame at best. Can't we just go after, at a minimum, the school portion of it and turn schools back over into a tuition-based system? Make it closer to the people that use it?
Yeah. The property tax issue has been very frustrating to me. One of the first conversations I had in dealing with property taxes, I got the inside track, and they said, hey, we're going to cap property tax at 2%. I said, that's great. What are you doing to make the entities prove they need the 2%? They hadn't thought about that. We have a spending problem in government. We have a spending problem in our school boards. We have a spending problem in our city councils. We have a spending problem in our county supervisor areas as well. And if we don't attack the spend, we're going to try to reduce the revenue. And as a business owner, any business owners in here, if you reduce revenue intentionally, but you don't attack the spend, that's a recipe for disaster. We have to attack the spend. I love the ESA program, school choice, and everything that's doing. We will carry that forward. That is going to, thank you, somebody did that. Is that Rebecca? You can't know, okay. That is going to create competition, and that competition is going to see that those kids are learning better than other kids. And I believe we've got the opportunity for for public schools to remove the requirements that are on teachers right now, so we can start to level the playing field, and that's going to affect the spend as well. We've got to attack the spend first.
Can I ask you a follow-up question to that? How much does the baseline budgeting, by law, I don't think we can even adjourn. Can we even adjourn without a balanced budget in the spring, right? All right. So we have to fix that on the front end, right? I mean, we can't just, I think voters need to understand that we can't do that and then by law and then say, and we're just going to trust, we have to, when you want guys like Mike going home as soon as possible in the spring to leave you alone, right? Okay. And so they can't go home until they know that your budget is balanced by law. And so if there is a revenue shortfall, right, they're stuck there. So we have to fix that by law on the front end in Iowa. So I think that's something that maybe is a key thing to understand.
Hi, I have a couple questions if that's okay. My first one is Representative Zach Deacon this will be his third year where he's introduced a bill to give the preborn equal rights from conception to natural death. So it's an equal rights bill. If a bill like that came to your desk, would you sign it?
Absolutely. I mean, life at conception.
My second question is, when I was watching the Moms for Liberty debate, the question or the concern about cancer being the highest rate anytime in history in Iowa, do you acknowledge that Big Ag, the chemicals that they're using, specifically glyphosate, amongst others, are a cause of that cancer rates in Iowa, and will you be addressing that?
So the cancer issue is near and dear to my heart. You probably heard me say this on the debate, and if you listen to Simon Conway's show from today, he and I expanded on that conversation. My father died of cancer 3.5 years ago. He was my hero. And he died of non-genetic kidney cancer. My mother, who's not here tonight, just survived breast cancer. I believe she's still in the hospital tonight. She get out. So cancer is a very big deal for my family. It's touched my in-laws. It's probably touched every single person in this room. When I first jumped into this race, I started going to forums. I started going to venues to learn more about the cancer issues so I could try to pinpoint what the problem actually was. And what I found out is that there are hundreds of toxins that are out there in our soils, in our waters, in the air. We have a drinking problem in this state. We have a smoking problem in this state. We have a gambling problem in this state. We don't live healthy lives. So I refuse to point at one certain entity and say, you're the problem. We are all the problem, because it's going to take all of us to figure this out. And I told Simon today, I said, this is going to be a years-long project to fix. This will be one of the biggest projects in state history to fix, but thank goodness you got somebody like me who's used to solving major problems through big projects. We will attack
Can I ask something else in response?
What? I'm sorry.
Can I ask something else in response?
Yes.
So I agree with everything that you say, 100%. The only thing that's different is that all the other states have the same problems that we do, but they're not super saturated in glyphosate. So I'm not saying that's the only problem, but would you say that that is a contribution to the problem, at least something that needs to be researched strongly?
100%. We need to research everything, and we need independent research as well. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We need to research every single area of this. It needs to be independent research, not bought and paid for by an entity that's running the show, so that we can actually get to the bottom line.
Thank you.
Yep. Wait, you can throw it.
You gotta get your steps in.
We did watch your debate the other night, and we did think you did a great job.
Thank you.
You did.
Thank you.
Tonight you talked about freedom, and you've listed a couple points. Mine has to deal with medical freedom. During the COVID-19 pandemic, states responded differently to federal vaccine mandates, often referencing existing school and child care immunizations and requirements. Well, who should have the authority to determine vaccine requirements for children and adults, both during public health emergencies and for purposes such as employment or school attendance? And as governor, what changes, if any, would you propose?
Yeah. Bottom line, we the people should have the authority. Again, I'll go back, and I say this, and it sounds funny, but the one thing government does well is screw things up. And the last thing I'm going to do is let the government tell me what to do, and I, as governor, am not going to tell you what to do. You have the authority to make your own decisions, and that's how it should be, and that's how it should always be.
Good evening. I've got some concerns that I'd love to talk to you offline because they're way in the weeds. Getting it general enough that the audience can follow along. Do you have a plan to make, you did lower the number of agencies. Do you have a plan to help them to work together and help those who support those agencies be able to do what the legislature said we're supposed to be able to do?
Yeah. You must work for the state.
I'm not at liberty to say at this particular time.
Hey, I'm not at DAS anymore. Your secret's safe with me. So, to unpack that, I'll try to be succinct with this, but my role with administrative services was widespread. I oversaw state accounting, oversaw state human resources, procurement, major maintenance, you name it. I was the operational entity of the state. And because I had developed a team, and I had an amazing team, we became known as the Special Projects Group as well. So all the big challenges that the state faced, we were behind the scenes fixing them. I became known as the governor's fixer. Part of what we did was align 37 agencies down to 16. Now, I resigned my position, jumped into this race. There's things we need to fix. There's things we need to coordinate, because when you do that, when you have 20,000 employees in 37 agencies down to 16, you're not going to get it 100% right. So there are a lot of areas that we need to make more efficient. There's a lot of areas where I know savings can be gained. And before I left my position, I told my team, I said, here's a laundry list of things that I want to do because I'm coming back.
Hey Adam, nice to see you.
Good to see you. I'll see you Sunday too.
Yes, I'll see you Sunday. You mentioned healthcare and trying to get some of our young people back into healthcare. We know the healthcare system is broken right now. We just have 67 people just been notified they're going to lose their jobs. We had teachers nurses voting to unionize. What ideas and plans do you have to make the healthcare system in Iowa stronger?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I'll give you three things. The first one is, and it comes from the core understanding of what I believe the problems are. One of them, we have rural parts of Iowa that don't have enough people to create the demand for a healthcare facility. So we need to create more economic development in rural Iowa. I believe we can do that through the trades. I believe we can do that through innovation, through strategic partnerships, joint ventures with existing companies in like-kind areas so that we can expand and scale businesses. But in the meantime, I think we need to expand telehealth as well. I think telehealth needs to be available for every single person that can absolutely use it. So you've got that on one end. You've got population challenges. Then you've got places like Ottumwa that have facilities, but they don't have enough workers. They don't have enough staff for the beds. I think we need to create economic development in places like Ottumwa. I believe we can do that through the trades, through new innovations, so that people move into these areas. We've got unbelievable natural resources across the state, so we need to build those areas up as well. But then also, what we need to do from a healthcare perspective is start teaching kids to their gifts and their talents. And we need to start that at the family dinner table, frankly, because some kids don't know they're supposed to be a nurse. Some kids don't know they're supposed to be a doctor. Some kids don't know that it's actually pretty cool to care for somebody because they're on devices. They're not in front of these opportunities. They're not in front of the opportunity to figure out how God created them and how they were made so that they could be the healthcare worker. So we need to bookend this thing. On one end, we got to solve the problem that exists. On the other end, we got to build up the basic children that think healthcare industry is cool, that the agriculture industry is cool, and that the trades industry is cool. And we can do that if we do it right.
So one of the things that we have seen post-COVID, and we started to see this during COVID, because I know you care greatly about the level of indoctrination going on in the conventional schools, but the medical system is ideologically weaponized. You have the American Association of Pediatrics is banning or is in support of gender mutilations, for example. Right now the country is fighting over a nurse in Minneapolis who decided to go play suicide by ice. I was just reading before I came down here, a couple more healthcare workers have had their licenses revoked, one in Virginia, one in Florida, for going online and literally saying if you are a Republican or you voted for Trump, I won't give you health care, or here's poisons that women can use. Go out with Republican men and put these poisons in their drugs, and they're putting these things out on video, and they're getting millions of views and stuff on TikTok. So I mean, this thing is very weaponized in the healthcare system as well. I look at my own situation. I have a conventional system doctor who's very good and a right-winger, but he's also a conventional system doctor, right? And so I pay for my own insurance as a business owner, so that covers him. But then I want a non-conventional doctor, because there's wisdom in a multitude of counsel, amen, right? So I want the other side of the paradigm. I have to pay cash out of pocket for that. Now, I'm blessed. Our show is successful. I can afford to do that. A lot of people cannot afford to do that. All right? Pay for their own insurance on one end and pay out of pocket cash for a healthcare provider on the other. I do that so I can pit their takes against each other and make the most informed decision for me, right? But I have to do that because I learned, covering COVID, how weaponized this is ideologically. How do we make sure we don't send a bunch of rural Iowa kids into the medical system just to come out as communists?
No, absolutely. I mean, so we've got an opportunity right now. There's a new chair of the Board of Regents. And his first day after being elected chair of the Board of Regents, he said, we got to remove the woke from these universities. That's a big deal. It starts with guys like Robert Kramer to come in there and snuff that out. And in talking about ideology, we as parents had to stand up against ideology when Riker was 4 years old going to preschool. We saw that they were going to read Jacob's New Dress to the preschool class, a book about a boy who thinks he's supposed to be a girl, so at the end of the book he's wearing dresses and finally feels alive. Casey ran so far in front of me, couldn't hold the door open for her. We stopped that book from being read. This thing happens from the ground up. And so if it happens from the ground up and it happens from the top down, we got to attack this thing from both ends so it's snuffed out so that we can be free and make the decisions that we need.
Really, Steve asked part of the question, and it's related. So there was a study done here just recently, and of the last two adult generations, over 50% of them see America as the problem. They embrace socialism. This is over half of the next two generations that are going to be running our government in our country. So if we're talking about fixing problems tonight, and I've loved what you've said so far, but if we're talking about bringing back America from the brink of all that, none of it will do any good unless we can instill a love of our country in the children of our country.
Amen.
How can you attack that problem from your office on a state level?
So the beauty of that question. So question being, how can I instill a love for America? How can I, as governor, instill from the top down a culture that loves America? Any business owner, any business, any operational entity, culture comes from the top down. You're looking at a CEO. And as the CEO of the state, I will, from the top down, champion families back to the dinner table. I'll bring out things like I don't normally do, but this coin right here. It's an Armor of God coin. And what I do with this, sorry boys, I'm going to let the secret out. The boys and I have the secret superhero nightclub. And so Maverick and Riker and I, we go to Perkins. We eat too much food and we learn stuff. I teach them things. I look them in the eye. They take notes. We answer questions back and forth. And we do that because those boys are going to be the future. And right now, as a candidate, I am saying on a regular basis, I would be the CEO of the state that stands up and casts that type of culture downstream on a regular basis. Now, I'd start at the condition of the state. And here's what gets scary. Is right now you're looking at a guy that in the condition of the state, I will say families need to get back to the dinner table. We need to bring Bible back into the schools. We need to be praying. We need to do all sorts of things that gets families back together. I will be saying that. If Rob Sand is standing there in the condition of the state, he doesn't know how many genders there are. Think about the absolute difference in culture. You have a candidate that can't answer if there are only two genders versus a candidate that's sitting there saying our families have to get back together because everything starts at the family. Grandparents need to get to know their grandkids again. Communities need to get to know each other again. That's what has to happen from the top down, and that's the culture we'll implement. It will take time, and it will take each and every one of you to spread that message so that culture can change. Two more.
So one of the biggest issues in the legislature is the eminent domain for private gain. Last year, again this year, difference of opinions in the House and the Senate and the governor's office. So what would you do as a leader of this state to resolve that issue?
It's a great question. Eminent domain. Eminent domain is the #1 issue across the entire state of Iowa right now. We're not talking about life. We're not talking about anything other than, well, property taxes, but eminent domain. Here's what I'm saying. If the legislature does not protect private property from imminent domain abuse for carbon sequestration, Rob Sands, your next governor. It is that big of an issue. So this session, it has to be solved. There needs to be a bill that includes eminent domain cannot be used for carbon sequestration, because I ain't going to be able to fix it because I won't be your governor if that's not fixed. It is that big of an issue. So they need to get this thing solved. They need to solve it soon. So it's not a talking point in the general, because that talking point is a loser all day long.
Yep. Can I add a little more context to that? For politically, we have about 30 counties in Iowa that voted for Obama twice, and then turned around and voted for Trump thrice. And they're all rural counties. So as someone who was on the ground floor trying to turn this state red 15 years ago, the one thing we could never figure out, we could get the rural Iowa folks to vote for us in things like retention elections, but we could never get them to vote in partisan elections en masse for us, because they thought, frankly, the Republicans just hated people like them and only cared about corporations, right? And so the last missing ingredient we had was Trump. His economic messaging is what helped us flip those rural counties that were voting Democrat before him, and are why it was so hard for a Republican to win statewide in a presidential election. He flipped them into our side. What you saw in the last session, and I remember when Senator Pike, one of my best buds, called me to tell me that a bunch of Democrats had joined with him in the last session in his group in pushing back on the eminent domain stuff. And I said to him on the call, they see this as a divide and conquer opportunity. All right, what they're going to try to do is depress our turnout. So what's the difference between Iowa and Minnesota? If you look at Iowa and Minnesota politically on a map, they look very similar. About 85% of Minnesota is red. About 85% of Iowa in terms of county and square mileage is red. The difference is the combined urban populations of Minneapolis and Duluth and St. Paul and Bloomington are greater than the combined urban populations of Waterloo, Des Moines, Iowa City, and Cedar Rapids. And so statewide, Democrats are able to run up such huge numbers in those urban areas, in just those areas, that they end up overcoming what we have over the course of the rest of the state. Okay? The game plan of the Democratic Party is to use that issue to help split our base, so that we demoralize our base in the rural areas, and instead of getting Trump-like turnout, we kind of get typical Republican turnout. They get huge turnout in those urban areas. They dominate Blackhawk County, Polk County, Story County, Lynn County, Johnson County, and they make us Minnesota by running up margins and depressing our base. And right now, we have a very small fraction of the Republican Party that is, because of the love of mammon, is aiding and abetting them doing that. And frankly, you want to know who's funding, what candidate all those interests are funding? They're all funding Randy Feenstra. And that's why Randy Feenstra had 40% of his own congressional district vote against him in his last primary, with a candidate who nobody knew his name and had no money at all. That was just all a protest vote. And the problem with that too is, what part of the state is most densely populated with Republicans? Do you know? His district, that northwest area. We need mass turnout of our base in that area. We can't have like 83% turnout. It's going to be like 93% turnout. If it's 83, 85%, it doesn't take too many people ticked off that you stole their land, and them and their friends and their family members and their precinct doesn't show up. If we don't get 93, 95% turnout of our vote in those areas, we're going to lose. That's what he's talking about. And that's why this issue is so particularly toxic, right? Because it gets to kind of the old divisions in the Republican Party. Are we about the stuff that your question was about earlier? patriotism, a legacy, heritage, passing on our country, or are we about, we're just here, money for money's sake, just pure materialism? Right? And so if we get that one wrong in this primary, or in this legislative session, Adam is correct. Our odds of winning in the fall will go down precipitously for sure.
First and foremost, my family's praying for your family.
Thank you.
Second, thank you for following a Christ-like model. It's being noticed throughout. I'm a homeschool dad. My wife and I have homeschooled for 17 years. And that community sees everything that you're doing. And that community has actually got a huge voice throughout Iowa. That community respects public school parents, public school kids. They're very frustrated with the public school model. So we hear on a regular basis from extremely good people, devout Christians, I wish I could stay home with my kids. I wish Dad or my husband didn't have to work so many hours to make this work. You listed things, you said there's a bunch of things you'll do for the family to back to the table. Can you name one that's maybe not property tax related that will put more money, or allow people to bring home more money, so that God can help Adam do what he created Adam to do, and Eve to do what he created Eve to do. So these moms can be at home, and the dads can work like he created to. God created work before sin happened. And I think I was full of men that work, but the moms need to be able to stay home. How can you help that happen?
Appreciate that question. Let me first say thank you for the prayer. This is a spiritual battle. This is real, and this is challenging, but we're up for it because we've got people praying for us that we don't even know. And that's what's going to win this thing, frankly, is prayer and hard work at the end of the day. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Other than property taxes from a spending perspective, I've mentioned spending is a huge problem. I think our healthcare industry as a whole, the insurance industry as a whole, needs to be looked at. I don't have a solution for it because it is a mess. I worked with the it's called DIFS, Department of Insurance and Financial Services. It's a department for the state. I will be tasking them with figuring out better solutions for insurance so we can drive down cost in homes. Again, our property tax, but still our counties, our cities, our schools. If you're taking advantage of the ESA program, there's still thousands of your tax dollars going into public schools. You only get a portion of your state money. So we need to understand where the spend is going. We need to look at all the bureaucracy. And I'll give you one example in this, trying to answer your question. But I was meeting with a gentleman who's a county supervisor for one of the poorest counties in Iowa, the least amount of things going on. And he challenged me on my zero-based budgeting. He said, it's not going to work, blah, blah. And I said, well, let me ask you just real quick. Again, I ran the state for 5 years. I said, what's your org chart look like at your administrative building? And he said, why? I said, just what's it look like? In the poorest county in Iowa, what's your org chart look like? And he named 5 executive level positions. All 5 of those positions had administrative assistants to those 5 positions. And I said, let me just say this. I oversaw 350 people directly, 20,000 organizationally. I didn't have an assistant. You've got the poorest county in Iowa, you've got 5 executives with 5 assistants. Are they all working 40 hours a week? I think there's some savings to be gained there. Does that mean layoffs? I don't know. It might mean you shift their occupation to something where it's actually being stewarded better. But we have a spending problem in the state, and we need to attack the spend because that's going to be what puts money back into every single one of our pockets right now.
Okay, which peanut butter is better, Skippy or Jif?
Chunky Jif. We're a house divided. I bombed the Hawkeye question apparently.
All natural. I like the all natural chunky Jif. That's actually.
I'll get you guys afterwards. Are you closing? Okay. And then I think they're coming up.
So what does all this mean? Well, one of my college roommates taught me one of the most profound lessons that has helped me for the last 30 plus years. All right. Romance without finance is a nuisance. Okay? All right? And so, the number one thing that determines who wins primary elections in America, I wish I could tell you it was the most qualified candidate. I wish I could tell you it was the candidate who had the greatest worldview. And unfortunately, it's not. It's name ID. And name ID is the most expensive thing to come by in politics. And right now it's harder than ever because nobody reads the Des Moines Register anymore, and I really appreciate that. Okay? But